Welcome to a special episode of GVN's Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge, your home for conversations about some of the best shows on television. On today's show, we welcome talented actor Joel Stoffer. Joel played the character of Enoch for 3 seasons of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now here's your hosts, Martin and Kathy Sexton.
Welcome to the special edition of GVN's Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. I'm Kathy.
And I'm Martin.
And today we have the pleasure of speaking with talented actor Joel Stoffer.
Whenever you say that, it sounds like you're going to invite him up to your room.
Well, as I said. Yeah. So, what you been doing lately?
Watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, we did it again.
Yeah, it said, it's been 5 years since actually we did one of these things.
Right.
And the last one we did was when season 7 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was going on. We did the entire season.
Right.
And of course, which ended with the final episode. And we're closing in on the 5-year anniversary of the final episode.
That is just unbelievable to me.
Yep.
Honestly, I it's hard to believe.
We haven't aged a bit.
Apparently you are having some delusion over there.
I don't know. Hey, I don't know what you're talking about, but I look good.
You do, baby. Actually, you don't change at all.
No,
Really.
not a whole lot. No. So anyway,
No, I did look at our last some of our last episodes, and I am gigantic. I'm gigantic still, but I was way more gigantic then.
Camera adds weight,
Well, it must have added 100 pounds to my face.
You're not even getting me to touch that with a 10.
I wasn't trying to. I was just telling you, holy cow. Anyway, yeah. So
anyway, like I said, we're coming close to the 5-year anniversary, and we were fortunate enough. We reached out to Joel to see if he would spend a little time with us, and he agreed to do that. We're thrilled to death to get a chance to talk to him because Joel has been showcasing his skills in both film and television, appearing in various roles, including parts in Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Stranger Things, and our personal favorite as Enoch in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we're going to discuss his early career and take a deep dive into his time on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So let's welcome Joel Stoffer to Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge.
Hi, Joel.
How you doing this afternoon, Joel?
I'm doing pretty well.
Excellent.
Helicopter flying overhead, which is so common here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We have a 2.5-year-old flying around here. He's our grandson.
Okay.
That's a common occurrence around here.
Your grandkid?
Yes.
Awesome. That's great.
So he lives with us. He runs the place. So
yeah. I have a 13-year-old who is he's my wife and he's our child that we had a little bit later in life, but he pretty much runs it.
Well, we want to thank you for your time, Joel. But since this is our first opportunity to chat, I want to start with some of your creative beginnings. When did you first take an interest in performing, and whose work inspired that desire from you?
Oh wow. Well, I mean, I kind of got thrown into it a little bit. I had done a show, grammar school. I did a play, and so I kind of had a little bit of a taste for it. But then when I was in 7th grade, for whatever reason, I was taking an acting class, because the school I went to was big in theater, and there was a senior production happening, and they needed a younger kid to play this part that comes on in just a couple of scenes. And for some reason, the drama teacher there, S.H.I.E.L.D. Bender, who was amazing, she asked me to do it. And so I was like, okay, I'll sure. And so I jumped in, and I just had a blast doing it. It was so much fun. And getting to hang out with the bigger kids, the seniors, and it was kind of my first real dive in. And then I just grew up watching movies and seeing movies that I probably shouldn't have seen at a young age. But we had the Z channel, which was one of the first home movie channels you could that was available. It was like in the early 70s, and they had every Saturday a new movie that would come out, and it was, you know, A Clockwork Orange and Mean Streets, and so like, you know, Scorsese and some of those other directors of the time were big influences on me, and as was De Niro and Malcolm McDowell, and it was that kind of got me really into it as I got a little bit older.
So throughout your career, you have guest starred on a variety of shows, including dramas, comedies, soap operas. But during the early stages of your career, did you have a preference the type of roles you played, or was it just more important to just keep on working?
It was really just about, you know, keeping working, and I mean, I think I've always been drawn to more dramatic roles, and if there's, you know, any comedy that I have been drawn to, it's usually like it's just through playing a character, you know, as honestly and truthfully as possible, and if the comedy comes out of that, then it comes out of that. But I've never really been as drawn to, like, you know, comedy for the sake of comedy and putting myself out there. I mean, as some people can do brilliantly, it was just not really how I saw myself, and so yeah, more dramatic roles, more theatrical roles for sure. And you know, at a certain point, it's like you take the work that comes your way, you know, as long, I mean, with certain limitations, but I mean, you know, there are some actors who just have gotten to work constantly all the time, and you know, things come their way always. And yeah, and then I, you know, for whatever reason, it's been a little fewer and further between some of the roles for me and some of the opportunities. So I feel like I have to be you know, discerning, but also like, oh, okay, I'm going to go do this because it's a job and it's an opportunity.
When you have a long stint in between things, what do you do to keep yourself occupied? Do you?
I have done a lot of different things over the years. Yeah, I took up carpentry. I have had a pretty successful career doing carpentry, which evolved into design work and designing that, like, kitchens and bathrooms is what I started out doing, built-in, you know, shelving, that kind of thing. And then that evolved into designing home additions. I studied architecture. I didn't get an architecture degree, but I just through my own experience and the study that I did, I learned enough about how to design, you know, from the ground up. And so I've done home additions and guest houses and things like that.
That's pretty cool.
And I have a contractor's license, and that is, it's been great, but it's also been challenging because I'm an actor. That's my first love. And they're both careers that you need to throw yourself into fully in order to really make one or the other work. And so I've dabbled in the contractor side of stuff, but haven't really been able to throw myself into it fully because I would get acting work.
Right.
And I can't, so it was, you know, not easy to commit to that, which I was so glad, you know, because
job take me.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, again, some actors, acting is all they've ever gotten to do, and that's awesome. And of course that has been my goal. And, you know, you still got to pay the bills. So you take the, you know, work that you can get. And yeah.
Okay, so what, you know, as a gamer from way back, I noticed that you appeared in Wing Commander Prophecy, which I've been a big fan of the Wing Commander series since the beginning. So what was that experience like?
To the world, if it works, that is. Casey, meet Dallas, a resident voice of doom and general naysayer. Probably writing another letter to Senator Taggart as we speak.
Not so, Zero. It's a very appropriate name. I am, in fact, tracking my investments. 5 more years at this rate, and I can retire a wealthy man.
Yeah, you see, Dallas does it for the cash. It's not just a job and all that.
You think everything is a conspiracy, don't you? Cash is what it's all about. How much money do you think Confed saved by building a standalone carrier force, namely this behemoth of a ship?
God, who cares? This tub gets hold, what then? They put all their eggs into one little basket with no backup. Doesn't matter. Confed's got their greedy little fingers into everything. It's a few credits here and there.
Well, don't tell that to Commodore Blair. After all, the Midway was his idea.
Oh, no. Not Blair again. For years at the Academy, all we hear about is Blair this and Blair that. Savior of the Confederation, most decorated pilot, blah, blah, blah. What is the guy, like 4,000 years old? God, I think I've heard just about everything. Except that he was on board the Midway.
Have we met, Lieutenant?
Casey Lansar, second lieutenant, Confed number C26354.
That was great. God, that was close to 30 years ago now. It was.
That. You're not supposed to be mentioning anything like how old we are.
Yeah, no. No, that was it was really fun because I got called into audition for that. And it just so happened that the director was Adam Foshko. And I went to grammar school with him. And I walked in the room and I'm like, wait a minute.
Know you?
I know you. And it turned out, I mean, he didn't have to cast me, but I think that helped me get that role for sure. But I think it was also, it was the right call.
Yeah.
But that was kind of one of the fun things that came out of that. And then getting to work with, all the talent on that one game. I mean, there were so many guys on that I mean, Mark Hamill for one, which was pretty cool. So, yeah.
Well, I can tell you this before we get into my favorite subject, which is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe we would talk about Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Tell me how that happened.
That was awesome.
He's still missing. I'll put up as many posters as I need till he's found. Good day to you.
I was with him. I was with him when the earthquake hit.
And where's Eddie now?
That was awesome because it was my very first audition after the pandemic. Mm-hmm. The pandemic hit in March in 2020, and I got that. I thought, oh well, I'm just not going to work for a year,
however long this is.
but I got in April. I got the audition for it, and they had just shut down with production because they were in the middle of it. Right. And so they cast me based off my home, self-tape. And I didn't get to go until October to Atlanta to shoot that. And which was just nasty because, we're still quarantining, and like they sent me a whole bag of gear that I had to wear, and then the mask and everything, the face shield and all that stuff, and then you get there and you have to quarantine for I think I quarantined for 9 days before I was allowed to shoot and do anything with that. So that part of it was strange, and interesting. but once we got to shooting, it was lovely, and just getting to work with the brothers, and God, I'm forgetting what's wrong with me.
It's lots of great
anyway, they were great, and very happy to have me, and they included me in the process a lot, which was really great, and let me make some decisions about how I saw the scene playing out. That was the first one in episode 2, and it just went on from there. But you just know a show when you get on a show, and the rapport, even under the stress of COVID, when people are really working together and they're still have a sense of humor, and they're respectful, and that, like, that there's something special going on with a show like that, and that was my experience with them.
Okay, so this is the part where we both try to tamp down our fanboy side with Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, you first appeared at the end of the 4th season and mentioned only as silhouetted man.
Right.
How did that opportunity come about? And when you filmed the thing at the end of season 4, did you have an idea that what the opportunities were going to be for your character in the future?
No clue. they I think they sort of wrote that bit with an idea of what they wanted to do. They were on the fence about whether or not they were going to be picked up for season 5, and they thought, okay, well, if we get picked up, we might have a storyline that includes this character, so that only known as Silhouetted Man, but they didn't really know exactly what it was going to be, or if they did, they certainly weren't telling me. And as I came to know, once I got to know the writers, they really were like as in the dark about it as I was. Obviously, they honed it later on, but yeah, I came in for that last scene in that last episode, and I asked the director, Billy Gerhardt. I was like, so what can you tell me about this character? Who am I? Who is this guy? What am I? It was nothing, because the part was offered to me. I didn't audition for that one. Oh. And it's always good when you get an offer. So I jumped on it, and they said there might be additional episodes. You don't know. But they didn't say anything. And his response to me was, it was like 0.
Thank you.
Either he knew nothing about it, or he could say nothing about it. And so I just kind of ran with it. And you can tell when you compare that, the way that I played that, to who Enoch eventually became. I mean, there's definitely a difference in the mannerisms and the gestures and the way Enoch eventually started to operate between, from that episode to the, say, somewhere in the middle of season 5 is when I finally started to evolve, and it was a great rapport that I built with the writers, because they liked what I was doing in season 5, and so it kind of helped inform them and feed their imagination, and write for the role.
Okay, so I mean, like I said, you were at the end of season 4 and the end of season 5, and you're joining actors who have been together now for 4 seasons and developed relationships and such. Did you have any apprehension as the new guy entering their club, and did the cast make you feel welcome?
Yeah, definitely had apprehensions, and they were awesome from the get-go. I mean, they welcomed me right away, and they they just, again, like what I was describing on Stranger Things. I mean, they had a real rapport, and they were having fun, and you sensed that as long as there was that mutual respect and professionalism happening, then it was just about having fun and playing and being creative, and that world really opened up for me, getting to work with those guys. There was never a sense of like, we're series regulars and you're not. I mean, that's just not how a successful show really works. So yeah, they were very welcoming.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so like when season 5 started and they kind of revealed your alien nature, starting with the Talking Head song, "This Must Be It Must Be the Place," and of course now every time we hear that we think of you.
Yeah.
And I understand you have a fondness for the song yourself.
Oh, so much. When I first got that script, they still hadn't told me anything about my character. Like, really, they were just like, okay, we want you to do this episode. Here's the script. They emailed it to me, and I didn't know who my character was. I didn't have a name, and I'm reading this opening scene, and I'm thinking, oh wow, this is really cool. And the character's name originally in that episode was Silas. They changed it like shortly after that to Enoch, of course, but so it was reading as Silas, and I'm like, oh, who's this character Silas? Because what a great opening to, and that's one of my all-time favorite songs. Talking Heads are actually pretty much my all-time favorite band, and I, grew up listening to that, and so I have a whole history with that song. And then I'm like halfway through the scene, and I'm like, I think this is me. I get to play this. I get to do this. It was really fun. It was great.
I loved it. That was my favorite. My favorite introduction. They had a lot of good music in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, but that was like I went, oh my god, this is awesome.
Okay, so like I said, it started season 5, and then it come by episode 5 of that season. Fitz goes looking for you, of course, basically trying to question exactly why he was the only one still there, and which begins the beautiful friendship between Fitz and Enoch. What was it like working with Ian? And because you appear to have great chemistry together.
Yeah, it was fantastic. He's awesome. We became buddies, and I mean, we had there was just enough of complete opposites in so many ways.
Right.
But also had enough similarities in terms of our pursuit of knowledge and
right.
That whole side of it. But it was really just, it was so easy to play with that and against each other in that way, to find the humor, and then the sort of this pathetic need to understand humans that Enoch starts to have more and more. By season 6, he's discovering this bond that with Fitz that he didn't really realize is there, and it was getting to play that with Ian was great, because he was pushing back just enough, and then letting me in a little bit at a time, and it was great. It's a lot of fun. I think I hope that the humor really came across that way.
It was great. It was awesome.
Okay, so by episode 10, Past Life, you apparently sacrifice yourself. Well, actually, you do sacrifice yourself, and which is your character's first death. Did you know at that time they were going to be bringing you back again, or did you think that was it?
That was, I mean, they came said to me, it was great. The producers came to me in my trailer and like genuinely like sat down and they just said, hey, we want you to know that we're gonna, Enoch is gonna have a death scene, and this is gonna be the end of Enoch, and we just want to say we were really happy to have you, and it was a very heartfelt thing to have them, you know, visit me and say that, because normally, like, they just like they write you out and
off and say bye.
But that was sort of the nature of the show and the way that they worked. And so, but as they said that to me, they also said, you never know what might happen. And that was like the most that they would say about that in terms of like whether or not I could come back. And then sure enough, it was shortly after we did that last episode for Enoch, and after we stopped that shooting that season, and they got to writing season 6, and they knew exactly how they wanted to reintroduce Enoch. Then I got a call that it was gonna that they were gonna have Enoch back. So I was thrilled, of course. And then with season 7, like I knew early on that I was going to be coming back. That they had a whole path mapped out for Enoch. So yeah.
Okay, so in season 6, as you were talking about, and Enoch got a chance to do all kinds of things, gambling, bluffing, and I got to tell you, one of our favorite scenes was when they decommissioned you, and you were basically lamenting the fact that they decommissioned you. It was hilarious, though. I'm not so much for Daisy, Piper, and Davis later on, who wanted to like chuck you out the plane.
Hunted. I have become a cautionary tale used to steer children away from a life of crime and excess.
Would it be rude to turn him off? His constant complaining is giving me a headache.
Yeah, well, you are the puffhead who got high and shot up our super threatening fuse box, so...
Never mind, sorry, I was wrong. The source of the headache is Piper. Definitely Piper.
Okay, Enoch, we made a lot of noise on Kitson, and we only have enough fuel for one more jump left, so we can't hang around up here.
Yeah, we need to plot a course. Who was that bounty hunter, and where would he have taken Fitz?
Poor Fitz. Though now I walk alone, I will never forget my one and only friend.
Your only friend? But you have us.
When last we met, I forcibly abducted your team and sent you all into a dystopian future.
Yeah, maybe not the best start, but in the end, you really came through.
I did.
In the future, you sacrificed yourself for us. Without you, we never would have been able to get home and save Earth from destruction.
The human race has survived its extinction level event.
And it was all because of you.
So what was that like, adding that dimension to the character?
So much fun. I mean, they, that was I think what kept that character alive is because clearly it could have easily been a very one-dimensional character. I mean, the Chronicom, who is just, he has a mission and he's devoid of emotion, and he's, he just like, that's his whole thing. But to have Enoch start to struggle with like somehow having emotion or being sad that he doesn't get to have emotion, or all of that, and introducing that as part of, I love that they were willing to take the time, because when you're writing for a show, there's so many plot lines and so many series regular characters that you have to write for, and they were willing to do that for this guy, for Enoch, and make it a more relatable and beloved character. And so getting to play that was all the more enjoyable, especially just working. I was working with Jesse Bojko on that, and the writers on that, Craig Titley, and they were willing to let me play and like just say, well, how do you think we can show this without getting, without making it too human, but still, staying in the world of staying in the world of Chronicom, but crossing that line a little bit, and so it was about finding that balance, and a lot of that scene just unfolded as it did. I mean, in that moment, it wasn't something we like planned in advance. It's just sort of you discover those moments as you play,
Okay, so and you mentioned it, and in season 7, you get to do something that I imagine would be a wish list for lots of people, and that's you got a chance to fight Agent May.
I do not wish to harm you. Since we are at war, I took the opportunity to upgrade to the hunter-level combat skill package.
A machine is still just a machine.
No need to make this personal.
Did you enjoy that opportunity, and how did you prepare for that when you got the script for that particular scene?
I mean, it was just so fun. I am not a martial artist. I don't have a lot of experience with that, whereas Ming-Na Wen does, and she was able to teach me quite a bit. And I had, of course, a stunt double for that. And I tried to do as much as I could, but I just I can't kick as high as I used to be able to. So they needed somebody else to do some of that stuff. But just getting to have that day. I mean, that took a long time to rehearse that and shoot that and play with Ming in that way. And even though we're comrades, then to all of a sudden be adversaries, it's like we don't want to hurt each other, but we're still going to duke it out almost to the death. I mean, it's kind of insane, but it was that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun getting to do stunts like that. I always love to do.
Excellent. Okay, now speaking of like working with the stunt team or whatever, not long after the show ended, I had a chance to talk to Mark Kopak, who is of course the show's visual effects supervisor.
Awesome. Yeah.
And one of the series' many strengths is the special effects, which in our opinion rival that of the ones you see on films with a television budget.
Yeah.
But during that discussion, he mentioned that whenever he prepared a member of the cast for a shot, like Chloe or Ming or you, that he would tell them the more foolish they felt when they were doing it, the better the final shot would turn out. Did you find that to be true?
Yeah, I think that that's a great point. I think that's always true in a way. Like, if you can, if you get to that place where you don't really know what you're doing, you're just kind of in the moment and flying with it, and letting inhibitions go. I mean, that's oftentimes means that you are being foolish and looking foolish and acting foolish, but that's sometimes the best stuff. That's where like the most entertaining stuff happens, I think. So yeah, I think that's very true.
All right. Okay. So speaking of combat, one of many of our favorite scenes in season 7 was when I'm hoping I'm not spoiling this for people by now. They should have watched this thing. Was the team trying to remove Gemma's memory inhibitor, and you were programmed by Gemma to stop them. And because of the time loop in that episode, they got to face you over and over again with basically comedic bad results. And unfortunately, poor Deke, no one was sad when he died.
Enoch, hey. Funny thing, we have a situation that we wanted to talk to you about.
We think you're gonna laugh.
Or just at least see the irony in it.
He did not see the irony.
No, he did not.
Enoch, Gemma has something to ask you. Go ahead, Gemma.
Enoch, I need you to do something for me, but it is going to require countermanding an order I gave you. In retrospect, I should have known I'd make countermanding that order password dependent.
I think it's time we get everyone in on the act.
Enoch, we need to talk.
That did not go well.
Where did he get all those weapons?
Geek's dead. Very.
So was that as fun a segment to film as it looked?
It was. I have great memories of everything we shot on that show, but absolutely that episode was the sort of pièce de résistance, if I can say, because Drew Greenberg wrote such a wonderful episode and such a great send-off for Enoch. That monologue when I got the script and then we got to do it at the table read, and he knew how to write for Enoch, and again they were willing to like give 5 pages of time screen time to a character that's not a series regular, and that's meant so much to me. And so it was just a pleasure to take that on, and it was so beautifully written, and getting to work with Clark and Chloe, and I mean it was kind of a dream ending for my run on that show. It was.
Does it hurt?
It does, a bit, but it's not the physical pain that troubles me. I am acutely aware that in my thousands of years observing humans, I never used to feel lonely. I've been alone many times. To be candid, I preferred it, but it wasn't until I met this particular team of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents that being alone meant feeling lonely. And I don't care for it, so I am feeling, as you might expect, some anxiety now.
You don't have to. You're not alone. Daisy and I will stay with you right up to the end.
That is very kind of you. But it's that last part, isn't it? You can stay with me up to the end, but you can't come with me at the end. I will have to leave you. And I will have to do that alone, and I can't help wondering, when that happens, will I feel lonely?
I mean, no, this was the episode that was directed by Elizabeth Henstridge, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So, which I thought she did a fabulous job.
Episode to try to put together, and she mastered it. She nailed it.
I just thinking about it right now, I want to cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was that scene, and when Fitz died, both of those scenes for me were like, we did a podcast right after that, and I couldn't even keep it together for either one of those. I was like, what? And
no, because you get so emotionally attached to the characters, and I did it because I had not seen the series. I had auditioned for it a couple of times, and I'd watched a couple episodes here and there before I got Enoch. And but when I got Enoch, I was like, I'm gonna watch the whole thing, and I watched, and like I was drawn in. It was the show was so strong, and more so than I thought I expected to, and yeah, when in that scene when Fitz dies, that's in season 3 or 4. When does he die?
He dies in season. Is it season 4?
I think it's. I'm forgetting, but
yeah,
when he gets the thing, through his
right,
when the roof caves in on him, but. That was a really, I mean, Ian played that so beautifully. I mean, it was so credible, and I mean that's the acting in that show is so great. But he he just, makes you, really believe the circumstances again, and you are drawn in, and it's a very emotional moment.
Yeah, it is.
Of course, I've always felt like the actors on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. never got the credit they deserved for the performances they did. I thought there should have been a whole lot more Emmys being handed out to the cast because they were awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's, for whatever reason, I mean, it had a pretty sizable following, but a very loyal following. I wish it had gotten to more people somehow. Because I think it's worthy of it. You know what I mean? I think it's such a strong show, and maybe it'll have, like Star Trek, maybe it'll have an afterlife that'll go on and on.
It's funny you said that because Kathy was asking me before we got on the air saying, so are they talking about like making a movie or something like that? I said, well, I haven't really heard anything about it.
More of it.
As I said when I had first wrote you that you're approaching the 5-year anniversary of the final episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is on August 12th. Thinking back on your whole experience, what would you say was the most memorable thing or a story that maybe best symbolizes your time on the show?
Boy, I mean, all of them. I had a great connection with all the cast, and I would say probably the two scenes that you pointed out, in I think it's 603, season 6, episode 3, and then 709. Those are probably the more memorable experiences I have had on that show. Just getting to play that stuff. I mean, I can't recall necessarily if there were any behind the scenes kinds of stories that I can point to. There were lots of them, but not ones that are coming to mind right now. I mean, I would say, because the memories that I have are primarily ones on the set and working and getting to play around with the script and working with directors and the actors and being Enoch. I mean, that's really, can't think of any one thing other than those two.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Joel, for taking the time to talk to us and sharing your memories about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But before I let you go, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about any new projects you might have upcoming and where fans might be able to follow you on social media and the web.
Well, I'm on Instagram. I don't do a whole lot of social media. There's one thing that I'm not allowed to talk about. that's coming up in 2026. And that's we shot that last year. And that's all I can say about that. But, and I mean, there's a podcast right now called The Big Fix with John Hamm. I had a role on that just got released a couple of weeks ago, and there's going to be more stuff coming soon, hopefully.
Yes, actually, I just listened to that today while I was at work, and I had someone ask me, play the coroner and ask me who that was. I would never be able to tell them that was you.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you very much for your time, Joe, and we hopefully maybe get a chance to talk to you again in the future.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys asking, and I appreciate you guys celebrating the 5th anniversary. That was another thing that kind of drew me to you guys. Was I like to revisit, that work, so I'm always happy to do it.
Yeah, well, we love it so much, and we'll just keep watching it over and over and over.
All right, thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
It's been our pleasure to present to you GVN's Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching this special edition of GVN's Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. GVN's Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge is a production of Geek Vibes Nation.